The longest day of my life began tardily. I woke up late, took too long in the shower, and ended up having to enjoy my breakfast in the passenger seat of my mom's minivan at 7:17 that Wednesday morning. I usually got a ride to school with my best friend, Ben Starling, but Ben had gone to school on time, making him useless to me. On time for us was 30 minutes before school actually started, because the half hour before the first bell was the highlight of our social calendars, standing outside the side door that led into the band room and just talking. Most of my friends were in band, and most of my free time during school was spent within 20 feet of the band room, but I wasn't in band because I suffer from the kind of tone deafness that is generally associated with actual deafness. I was going to be 20 minutes late, which technically meant that I'd still leave 10 minutes early for school itself. As she drove, Mom was asking me about classes and finals and prom. I don't believe in prom, I reminded her as she rounded a corner. I expertly angled my Raisin Bran to accommodate the G-forces. I'd done this before. Well, there's no harm in just going with a friend. I'm sure you could ask Cassie Heine. And I could have asked Cassie Heine, who was actually perfectly nice and pleasant and cute, despite having a massively unfortunate last name. It's not just that I don't like prom, I also don't like people who like prom, I explained. Although, in point of fact, this was untrue. Ben was absolutely gaga over the idea of going. Mom turned into school, and I held a mostly empty bowl with both hands as we drove over a speed bump. I glanced over at the senior parking lot. Margot Roth-Spiegelman's silver Honda was parked in its usual spot. Mom pulled the minivan into a cul-de-sac outside the band room and kissed me on the cheek. I could see Ben and my other friends standing in a semicircle. By the way, on the next page I kind of have to work blue, and I don't think I'm going to do that, so I'm going to skip around a little. I walked up to my friends, and the half circle effortlessly expanded to include me. They were talking about my ex-girlfriend, Susie Chung, who played cello and was apparently creating quite a stir by dating a baseball player named Taddy Mack. Whether this was his given name, I didn't know, but at any rate, Susie had decided to go to prom with him, another casualty. "Bro," said Ben, standing across from me. He nodded his head and turned around. I followed him out the circle and through the door, a small, olive-skinned creature who had hit puberty, but never hit it very hard. Ben had been my best friend since 5th grade, when we both finally owned up to the fact that neither of us was likely to attract anyone else as a best friend. Aww. It's a hard life. A nerd fighter. How you doing? We were safely inside everyone else's conversations, making ours inaudible. "Radar's going to prom," he said morosely. Radar was our other best friend. We called him Radar because he looked a little bit like this bespectacled guy called Radar on this old TV show MASH. Except for one, the TV Radar wasn't black, and two, at some point after nicknaming him, our Radar grew about 6 inches and started wearing contacts. So actually 3, he didn't look anything like the guy on MASH at all, but 4, with 3.5 weeks left in high school, we weren't very well going to re-nickname him. "That girl Angela?" I asked. Radar never told us anything about his love life, but that didn't dissuade us from frequent speculation. Ben nodded. Then we're going to skip. Ben started outlining plans for finding a date, but I was only half listening because through the thickening mass of humanity crowding the hallway, I could see Margot Roth-Spiegelman. She was next to her locker, standing beside her boyfriend, Jace. She wore a white skirt to her knees and a blue print top. I could see her collarbone. She was laughing at something hysterical, her shoulders bent forward, her big eyes crinkling at their corners, her mouth open wide. But it didn't seem to be anything Jason said, because she was looking away from him, across the hallway to a bank of lockers. I followed her eyes and saw Becca Arrington draped all over some baseball player like she was an ornament to a Christmas tree. I smiled at Margot, even though I knew she couldn't see me. We're going to skip again? They walk up to, so we'll just skip to this. Margot Roth-Spiegelman, whose stories of epic adventures would blow through school like a summer storm. An old guy living in a broken-down house in Hot Coffee, Mississippi, taught Margot how to play the guitar. Margot Roth-Spiegelman, who spent 3 days traveling with the circus. They thought she had potential on the trapeze. Margot Roth-Spiegelman, who drank a cup of herbal tea with the Millionaires backstage at a concert in St. Louis while they drank whiskey. Margot Roth-Spiegelman, who got into that concert by telling the bouncer she was the bassist's girlfriend, and didn't he recognize her? And come on guys, seriously, my name is Margot Roth-Spiegelman, and if you go back there and ask the bassist to take one look at me, he'll tell you that I either am his girlfriend or he wishes I was. And then the bouncer did so, and the bassist was like, "Yeah, that's my girlfriend, let her in the show." And then later the bassist wanted to hook up with her, and she rejected the bassist from the Millionaires. The stories, when they were shared, inevitably ended with, "I mean, can you believe it?" We often could not, but they always proved true. And then we were at our lockers. Radar was leaning against Ben's locker, typing into a handheld device. "So you're going to prom," I said to him. He looked up and then looked back down. "I'm de-vandalizing the Dictionary article about a former prime minister of France. Last night someone deleted the entire entry and replaced it with the sentence, 'Jacques Chirac is a gay,' which as it happens is incorrect both factually and grammatically." Radar is this big-time editor of this online user-created reference source called, by the way, I want to go back to that joke. Radar is a big-time, remind me. Radar is a big-time editor of this online user-created reference source called Dictionary, and his whole life is devoted to the maintenance and well-being of it. This was but one of several reasons why his having a date to prom was somewhat surprising. And we're going to skip ahead to page 1. It's been built up way too much. So they're at Ben and Q go to lunch together, and Radar doesn't have the same period of lunch, so it's just Ben and Q, and Angela walks up, Radar's new girlfriend. I was thinking about how Radar's parents actually are in the Guinness Book of World Records when I noticed a pretty African-American girl with spiky little dreads standing above us. It took me a minute to realize that the girl was Angela, Radar's, I guess, girlfriend. "Hi," she said to me. "Hey," I said. I'd had classes with her and knew her a little, but we didn't say hello in the hallway or anything. I motioned for her to sit. She scooted a chair to the head of the table. "I figure that you guys probably know Marcus better than anyone," she said, using Radar's real name. She leaned toward us, her elbows on the table. "It's a crappy job, but someone's got to do it," Ben answered, smiling. "Do you think he's, like, embarrassed of me?" Ben laughed. "What? No. Technically," I added, "you should be embarrassed of him." She rolled her eyes, smiling, a girl accustomed to compliments. "But he's never, like, invited me to hang out with you guys, though." "Oh," I said, getting it finally. "That's because he's embarrassed of us." She laughed and said, "You seem pretty normal. You've never seen Ben snort Sprite up his nose and then spit it out of his mouth. I look like a demented carbonated fountain," he deadpanned. "But really, you wouldn't worry," Angela said. "I mean, we've been dating for 5 weeks and he's never even taken me to his house." Ben and I exchanged a knowing glance, and I scrunched up my face to suppress laughter. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "Honestly, Angela, if he were forcing you to hang out with us and taking you to his house all the time, then it would definitely mean he didn't like you," Ben finished. "Are his parents weird?" I struggled with how to answer that question honestly. No, they're cool. They're just kind of overprotective, I guess." "Yeah, overprotective," Ben agreed a little bit too quickly. She smiled and then got up, saying she had to go say hi to someone before lunch was over. Ben waited until she was gone to say anything. "That girl's awesome," Ben said. "I know," I answered. "I wonder if we could replace Radar with her." She's probably not that good at computers, though. We need someone who's good at computers. Plus, I bet she sucks at Resurrection, which was our favorite video game. By the way, Ben added, "Nice call saying that Radar's folks are overprotective." "Well, it's not my place to tell her," I said. "I wonder how long until she gets to see the Team Radar residence and museum," Ben smiled. The period was almost over, so Ben and I got up and put our trays on the conveyor belt. We walked over to Radar's locker and were standing there when he raced up just after the first bell. I decided during government that I would actually, like, literally suck donkey balls if it meant I could skip that class for the rest of the semester. You can learn a lot about government that way, I said. "Hey, speaking of reasons you wish you had fourth period lunch, we just had lunch with your girlfriend." Ben smirked at Radar and said, "Yeah, she wants to know why she's never been over to your house." Radar exhaled a long breath as he spun the combination to open his locker. He breathed for so long that I thought he might pass out. "Crap," he said finally. "Are you embarrassed about something?" I asked. "Shut up," he answered, poking his elbow into my gut. "You live in a lovely home," I said. "Seriously, bro," added Ben, "she's a really nice girl. I don't see why you can't introduce her to your parents and show her Casa Radar." Radar threw his books into the locker and shut it. The din of conversation around us quieted, just a bit, as he turned his eyes toward the heavens and shouted, "It is not my fault that my parents own the world's largest collection of black Santas." Collection of black Santas maybe 1,000 times in my life, and it never became any less funny. But he wasn't kidding. I remember the first time I visited. I was maybe 13. It was spring, many months past Christmas, and yet black Santas lined the windowsills. Paper cutouts of black Santas hung from the stairway banister. Black Santa candles adorned the dining room table. A black Santa oil painting hung above the mantel, which was itself lined with black Santas. They had a black Santa Pez dispenser purchased from Namibia. The light-up plastic black Santa that stood in their postage stamp front yard from Thanksgiving to New York spent the rest of the year proudly keeping watch in a corner of the guest bathroom. A bathroom with homemade Black Santa wallpaper created with black paint and a Santa-shaped sponge. In every room save Radar's, their home was awash in Black Santa dough, plaster and plastic and marble and clay and painted wood and resin and cloth. In total, Radar's parents owned more than 1,200 Black Santas of various sorts. As a plaque beside their front door proclaimed, Radar's house was an officially registered Santa landmark according to the Society for Christmas. You just gotta tell her, man, I said. You just gotta say, Angela, I really like you, but there's something you need to know. When we go to my house and hook up, we will be watched by the 2,400 eyes of 1,200 Black Santas.